as I stated in my last video, when I'm talking about Sabo, when I'm talking about multiple people who like anime, who are basically the normal civilian, why is it that they're socially awkward even though they're into the same thing? Okay, so here's the thing I've been trying to tell every single body about. You want to get along with people who don't have the same opinion as you. What a lot of anime fans go through is what I went through when I went through my household, where literally you want to get with the same people who have the same hobby as you. Why? So you can't expand your mind. I'm not saying that as a diss. I'm saying that as literally what you need to do as a human being is work with multiple people. I learned that from going to a multiracial high school slash junior high and having everything be a different opinion coming out of an Indian person's mouth, coming out of a white person's mouth, coming out of a black person's mouth, Filipino mouth, so many different races is why I grew up so multidimensional and why I tried to be so much like other people. And I listen to so many different types of music and people just want me to listen to rap. And this is where we get the socially awkward thing. So how do we put it like this? We live in a generation where nothing is admirable anymore. Nothing is good anymore. It's just about hardcore this, hardcore that, and nothing is balanced. And the reason why is because we live in a generation that runs off testosterone instead of logic. You can have drive, but the drive is making you crash and burn. And reason why this relates so heavily to the anime fans and the people who support it is because a lot of anime fans go through the same thing in school, saying that you're unsocial because a lot of fans that are still watching anime in junior high have the excuse from their parents, oh, we respect you. But it is the reason why anime makes people feel childish. When I was growing up, I was in high school, and I'm seeing everyone socializing. I see everyone with a girlfriend, and I'm still alone. Every time I was watching anime in high school, not when I grew up. In high school, I kept on comparing myself to other people because that was my surroundings. I mean, I need to have a girlfriend. I need to have this and that. Even my nerd friends have girlfriends. But when I got older, I realized that all those were through social connections and they all lowered the fuck out of their standards because all my friends who were flexing on me, girlfriends were fat. And we all know why Matt went out with Ashley. So anyway, the reason why it's socially awkward is because you're watching a cartoon and you're watching something that you should have already surpassed, so it keeps you in a childish mindset. Because cartoons, even though shonen is more mature than a cartoon, it will never put you in a realistic setting to a point where we're gonna think realistically more than a fantasy, because anime will give you fantasy after fantasy after fantasy and put it in a realistic way because of how it's structured. Like Naruto shit works like the presidents. You have Mount Rushmore and you have the Hokage's mansion. And literally, you can get lost that world saying believe it, but are you forgetting that Naruto is white, and if you're black and you try to say believe it, you can't back it up because you have a whole society against you? You can get lost in the anime world so easily because of how it draws you in and how similar it is, but what makes it different is you have to understand that that is an exaggeration. And when you watch it by yourself and you're wondering why everybody else is socializing, is because they're willing to let that go and they're willing to be multi-talented. Like, I used to be jealous of people who had multiple talents, also were hella social, still make jokes and still have their cake and eat it too. And you have to understand that that comes from years of practicing. And when you view anime, you're gonna feel insecure, especially when you're in high school and you have nothing but the choice to compare yourself to someone else who has everything together, and you're still watching anime, you're still holding on to this thing where people let go because they're too busy practicing on their image. Even though, while older, I realized they were full of shit, it's still heavy to understand that principle that you need to adapt. Just because you're an anime fan, just because you're a good person, does not mean the world isn't going to be cruel to you. The world is going to be very cruel to you, whether it's anime fan or not. You have to stand up for yourself. You can't just be a good person, expect people not to fuck with you. You have to stand up. You have to fight when you need to. You can't just take the teacher's word because the teacher is just an occupation. What happens when you go out in the real world and you realize it's not about what you know, it's who you know? And you didn't socialize all the time and you relied on Naruto's believe it, being a nice person to get out of the situation you're in. You stay in the same situation because you have no connections to get it out. Because you wasted your time, instead of socializing, instead of being multidimensional, relying on a Japanese cartoon to save your day. That's how I was when I was in high school. I was getting rejected by girls after girls after girls, and I was coming home and watching Fairy Tail. But guess what? The distraction wasn't distracting me forever. Those big ass titties, those thick ass anime characters were just making me wonder, damn, I really need to get some. Damn, I really need to do this and that, because of the main fact that even anime has ships. Don't tell me that we don't get jealous at looking at the ships in anime and wish that we can have something like that in real life. And when we see other people socializing in public, it pisses us off as anime fans. Like, why don't I have that? You know what's even worse is that there are girls, there are guys who are just as beautiful as me who fell for the same trap of society. Be yourself instead of trying to improve. You have to adapt. You don't necessarily have to be hip-hop, but you have to understand that this isn't the world where you can just stay the same and literally do your homework, everything's gonna all fall into place. No, you have to have character. You have to be able to call people out. You have to be able to read people. You have to be able to socialize, because that is necessary if you want to have children. People forget this when they're watching anime, that you're watching something that you've already surpassed. Now, the reason why it's different now is because I'm not in high school. I don't have to compare myself to a bunch of people, and plus I realized that all those people were still virgins. Yeah, they had tons of social acceptance, but I know the full story now and why I'm not jealous of them. But that doesn't mean that there's still not more multidimensional than some of the anime fans out there that literally rely on anime to survive and think that hanging out with other nerds instead of expanding your mind, which is, I keep on telling you, which is why I hung out with Arturo, is why I got a different view of Arturo versus my knowledge in high school will always travel farther. You have to understand that even though he was an asshole, even though you have to be a devil's advocate and admit he was more multi-dimensional. Even though he was a little kid, the shit that he was doing was going to travel farther. Even though it's a lie, you have to know when to shut up. You have to know when to accept things. You need to know that sometimes pretending to be social is better than making yourself a sore thumb that sticks out so they can literally poke you with a toothpick and make your thumb explode. And their excuse is, oh, it's just a thumb. I'm like, you do realize that separates us from primates, right? You want to stand out in society without having the troubles that I went through, you have to learn how to literally cap back, because capping back, and instead of saying, oh, I'm going to be a good person, and like the movies, I'm going to end up winning in the end. Okay, I'm sorry, Forrest, but that's not how it works in real life. You have to adapt, and then you gotta be a good person after you've been to the other side. That's why I say you can't treat someone like a little kid and literally bring out the bad stuff that they did without recognizing the bad stuff that you did. And the reason why I'm so heavy on this parenting moral is because you will feel behind. It's like the same thing I told Peter. It's like the same thing I told even Arturo. It goes to Arturo too. If you're going to be one-dimensional, we're only hanging around street guys, how are you going to conduct yourself on the interview? If you are an anime fan and you are not funny, and the other guy who is a street smart guy is funny, he's going to pass that interview and he's going to blow you out the water. I am fucking sorry. You have to adapt, whether you're an anime fan or not, whether you're anything, and literally, so you have to understand that life is not gonna slow down for you, and is not going to feel sorry for you when you believe fiction, basically. It is fiction when everything is scripted and the good guy comes out in the end. Okay, so you don't have to be a bad guy, you don't have to be a nice guy, you have to be a realistic guy. And the reason why anime fans are so unsocial is because they are treating better. They're not forced to adapt, and they can make it out the way, but you will forever be jealous of someone who is more multidimensional, you has more than what you have, and they're telling you to be content when you could be so much more. That's why I constantly tell people to push past their limit, to literally become more than what they are, because that's what happened to one of my friends who was a big fan of my manga. He's like, we should just accept people. We should just accept people for who they are. I'm like, so people can't change, so people can't improve, so people can recognize us for our daily habits, so we can act the same, so they can treat us like a running gag.